All right, we are live, folks. We are back with another creator spotlight. I'm probably going to butcher your last name, but I'm going to try it. It's Brandon Starocci.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that works. Yep.
so he is a new individual to our channel. So you guys know we're going to give him the 8,000 question version because that's what we do here because he's a new guy. No, that's not how we do things. We just come out to have fun, as you guys know. So today's a big day, right? Because Brandon just launched Avalon's new Kickstarter.
Yep.
If you guys see, I put it in the comments down below already. Just go and check it out. And I already backed it myself as already because I needed to play catch up on the book side. I read through all the PDFs, and all the digital stuff. So definitely enjoyed the story. But let's get started with you. So all right, so where are you from? What you do, and how did you get into comic books?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for your support with the Kickstarter as well, and having me on your show. But a little bit about myself: I just an average Joe. Never actually was into comics growing up, unfortunately. But always into kind of movies and cinema and that kind of nature too. So when I originally had this idea of Avalon before it was even called Avalon, I was a senior in high school. Again, really big into cinema. I wanted to be a movie director. I was kind of making my way towards figuring out what schools I wanted to go to. So I checked out the New York Film Academy, things of that nature. Found out it was too expensive. Came back, got a regular day job deal. Fast forward a little bit, I met Alan, which is kind of how Avalon started. We kind of just went back and forth on ideas that we've had because we're sick and tired of just the regular day to day jobs. We almost wanted to kind of make our own create. We're both creators. We want to do that and kind of make that our deal. And that's really when I started getting into comics. Actually, is when I started making Avalon. Now, I've always read like the bigger Batman stories, The Walking Dead as well. But as I started creating Avalon and going through the whole motions of that, I've really started to admire comics more and more as time went on. So, indie comics and other comics as well, I've kind of expanded my arsenal of comics.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like, I'm a huge horror guy, as you can see right here. Like, I'm a huge
Yeah.
horror guy, always have been. I mean, it's funny. We were playing a trivia game, and they're like, "So when did you start watching horror?" I said, "Well, I started at 4 years old," and so. And I'm 42 now, so that just tells you that there's been a lot of stuff go on since then. Um, but I picked up comics when I was about 7 or 8. And so I've been reading a lot of stuff for a lot of years. And so there's a lot of things that are similar, right? And that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to do. And with comics today is like, how can I do a story but make it different enough where somebody can enjoy it from a different perspective, right? Like, cause I've been as soon as I read it, I had Walking Dead, kind of on
Yeah.
my mind because of the similarities of it. But then one of my favorite pieces I saw was, the dude's holding the Path of the Pale Rider book,
Yeah.
and it's like I'm like, all right, so Lori, I mean, you got to think about it, like Lori's got her book, you got your book, but it's different stories, different things, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, and that's what I kind of enjoy is like it's a different perspective on things, and the zombies aren't the same either. So I mean, you
Right.
can tell like that. And I will tell you the one thing I did like well, it's kind of that like black and white with red, right? And then it also has a little bit of color, like in some parts of it. So I'm like, you know what? That's kind of a cool little different thing that's done than I've seen.
Yeah. No. A lot of those things, to touch on as well. First and foremost, having Lori's comic in there as well is a cool little Easter egg. To kind of, and the Ray's comic as well. Two
Hmm.
people, two groups of people. Lori and Sam and Trey on the Rays side as well. They have wonderful comics. Uh, and another thing that shows is, a long term question that people even ask for The Walking Dead per se is, zombies exist in this universe. Okay, so these are things that exist. So this isn't going to be something that's kind of left out for these characters not to comprehend. Like, okay, is this a zombie or whatever? What or what not. So that kind of is like a little, push at like saying, okay, yeah, they're here. And the black and white deal as well, it's a cool idea. Off when we were thinking about it, we're like, okay, I love the black and white, but like being a fan of The Walking Dead, but I needed to see that blood, especially being a horror fan myself, and it being a zombie comic itself. I needed to kind of have that like visual feedback for myself, you know, uh, and kind of showcase the blood a little bit more as well. And then having Demetrius do it, it just it blows it out of the water. He does it so well and makes the idea that much better. And showcases it so well. And again, kind of touch on that. He just does an amazing job, and he brings Avalon up to a new level, that we couldn't reach here on our own.
What's cool is like I was kind of like looking at the artistic style right through the first issue to the fifth. You can see how getting refined and refined and refined too as you see it grow. And that was the same way with Carissa Grant's Where the Chaos books. You saw that growth of like the artist coming in and saying, "I want to do it my way." How do I tell a story artistically, but with the writing piece as well? And it's so cool to see like that drawing, especially the blood coming out of the eyes. Like, so you got to kind of talk a little bit about that part because that's a little different than most stories has.
Yeah. So as much as I can talk about it, because a lot of it is actually going to be told in a story progression manner. We wanted to make it a little bit different as well. As much as I love the classic zombies, it's been done time and time
Mm-hmm.
again. So we wanted to kind of make our own kind of infection, our own kind of zombie as well. And when we were going through it, Alan and I, as we were breaking down the story and figuring out what we wanted to do overall with the characters, with the world, and the zombies themselves, we wanted to really ground it in so much reality. We wanted this comic to feel very raw and authentic and real. And that goes also for the zombies. So when we were searching a bunch of different things like viruses, parasites, bacteria, and all that stuff, and how they can kind of interweave and evolve in different categories. So we really dug deep. We really did our research of what we wanted and how we wanted these kind of zombies to kind of be portrayed. And with the eyes and the scratching and the transition of turning into a zombie too, it all goes in from research as well. So without giving much away, it's just another unique kind of thing that we're bringing to the zombie genre that we don't believe has been done on this kind of in this way.
And that's what I like. I like seeing a difference, right? Because like we have the zombies that's in Path of the Pale Rider, right? We've got
Mm-hmm.
yours, and the funny part is in Lori's book, they're not really zombies. They're still alive people that just can't die.
Yeah.
And so it's a little different. They are they have their consciousness and whatnot. These ones are raging zombies, right? Like literally, once they make the change, they are after you, and you saw that in some of the portions, right, where they had the mob of them going after them,
Yeah.
and it's like there's organization to it too. So you can tell, like there's something there still in their heads because it's either a thirst for eating or B, there is a little bit of consciousness there to say, hey, they're so organized, where it's not just onesie twosies.
Right. No, and those are cool little details that you picked up on as a reader. It's something that we subtly kind of put in there, in the writing room, and Demetrius himself, and trying to subtly kind of articulate that. And for people to actually notice it, like for yourself as well, to kind of see it too. It's kind of it's cool to hear, it being in the writing room and people are actually picking up on these little subtle details. And like I said, like these things are going to be a part of the storyline moving forward. We're not giving too much information about them because the characters and the family doesn't know too much about them. This story is going to be told through this family. And one thing that separates us from other zombie things in the past is this family is the main protagonist. It's not going to be one individual that kind of has like a hero journey or anything like that. So we're kind of stripping that away with our comic. We're going to be focusing on the depth and the diversity of each one of these family members, and really kind of showcasing it and telling their story as if they all were kind of their own main character in their own life. And again, that bringing that into reality is like nobody's really a main character in real life. You could be a main character in your own life, but like life is life, and that's the
Yeah.
kind of the way we're kind of thinking about it in the writing room when we're telling the story. Is the world just rotates, the world moves, that's just the way it is. So these characters are just going to be characters, and just here at the at the time we're telling the story. So it's kind of like an interesting difference, I think, what we've been kind of doing in the writing room.
And I noticed that too, going through the 5 issues that I have to read. And I was trying to pick up for little things here, especially with Andy, being the main character, trying to do everything for the family. And it's like, but you can tell there's some internal struggles there,
Yeah.
because like there's like some self-consciousness, right, about like him feeling bad that he's doing a job versus being there, and helping out the family. And it's like, that's real world. That's exactly what happens in the real world. People move away, they have their own lives, they have their own jobs, they're not as connected as they used to be. But then there's always something big that brings them back together.
Right, and that being, the apocalypse in this scenario too, and that's, and you, I think you hit the nail right on the head there too. Is Andy's got a job, Andy's got stuff going on, Andy's got his own personal craziness going on before the apocalypse even started. We kind of showcased it a bit as well with the family uh, on their half of the story, that there are some struggles going on. There were some struggles going on, and before the apocalypse even kind of was there. Um, and we were kind of hinting that and sprinkling that in as time went on with those issues. And we're, again, for me, knowing what's kind of coming up to, it's exciting to kind of see how this, ending this first season here and having this, asking that all, or pushing us over the edge at the end of this issue 6 here into the next season. And we're, just very exciting to kind of be able to have it slow down for a moment, because issues 1 through 5 that you've read so far, and 6, um, have been very fast, but with like subtle slowdown moments, but very fast overall. You can't fathom what has happened, and some of the stuff, the extreme stuff that's been kind of showcased as well. And, in a zombie story, death is going to happen. So, knowing that going into it as well, is these characters need a moment, they haven't had that
Mhm.
moment yet.
And then it's a sad moment at the end of 5, that
Yeah.
they finally get 5 seconds to sit down, but then it's something bad that I'm not going to spoil it. People need to read
Yeah.
the book, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. No. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Right. You go. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, like, there's like 2 big issues that happen between that family, and you're just going to have to read, especially issue 3 and issue 5, because that's where your 2 big ones come into play. And it's like, okay, you just buckle up and get ready for the ride. I mean, but there is, as you say, a subtlety time where it slows down for like 5 seconds, right? And
Yeah.
especially when Andy's talking with his partner, right, and they're trying to figure out like what's going on. They're like, well, we need to do, and he's like, dude, we ain't got time for this. You got too much going on. You want to sit here and die? You can sit here and die. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, seriously though, and that's, I think, again, showcasing this, the beginning of the apocalypse, because I've always, being a huge fan of the show, the genre, uh, I feel like it's always been sped over real quick. I mean,
Mm,
there are some incidents and projects out there that kind of touch on it, but it's always seems like a little fast. And this, we were able to kind of stretch it out in a sense where it's like, okay, there's a lot going on and it seems very fast, but we're doing it in 5 issues.
mhm,
So you got 5 issues to kind of read this, what it feels like fast chaos, but it's still giving that room to breathe. We're really showing it
mhm.
step by step rather than going like, one page is a moment and then 15, like an hour goes by, you know what I mean, or a day goes by, whatever. We're really kind of letting these scenes kind of breathe out and taking in this chaos in the beginning of the apocalypse.
Which is kind of nice, because what always happens, right? This has been usually the stereotype around, any zombie thing. Apocalypse happens, everybody's in mass chaos, nobody knows what to do, and then they kind of organize, right? Or they react and they figure out what's going on. What I would like to see is finally, like, for example, Night of the Living Dead, right? They
Yeah.
never said what caused it, right? Only there's been speculation for 50 years saying that it's this thing that went across the moon or Venus and hit a satellite, and then the satellite hit Earth or something like that, and it caused a virus, whatever. I like to see a story actually brought out and says this is definitely what it is, right? And that's what was kind of nice with Lori's book, right? They said they're undead. They're
It is what
and
it is.
it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. We're just they don't know what caused it, but they said now we have to deal with it. Right?
Yeah.
Uh,
To even touch a bit on hers too, is it definitely is. It's definitely being told in a way that I've never seen it. It's a very interesting way of doing it. It's very good the way she's doing it as well. Um, And like you said, it's just like a different aspect of like, okay, they're zombies, but they're not zombies because they're inside their body. They're decaying, they're dying. Their bodies are dying, but they're not going anywhere. And to kind of showcase the story from that kind of perspective years down the line, and when society is kind of accepted that this is what happens, what are the political things that is dealt with in
Mm-hmm.
that moment too. But obviously with Avalon though too, on the other side of the spectrum of zombie storytelling is it is more of your, I guess, classic zombie-ish kind of thing where it's like the rage or fight, but
Mm-hmm.
we're telling it in such a different manner, and the zombies themselves are differently. We're doing it in a different approach rather
Mm-hmm.
than things that you've seen as well, and you will in our story as well. In due time, you will find out how and what and where this is ultimately coming from. But why rush to the that conclusion when there's so much story to be told in between it?
Well, look at Kirkman's Walking Dead. He never said, even when it ended, he never said what caused it, right? And I think that was the hook that kept people reading it for so long, me included, right?
Yeah,
I started with number one and I ended with the last issue, and I was like, they never said what caused it. So keeping that mystery around it is, I think, what sells zombies well, right? Is like what caused it, and then how do we react to it has always been what brings a lot of people to it. I mean, even if it's the Romero's, sides of it, the revenge, of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead. There's so many different movies that's out there for it, and I probably got 99% of them because I love
yeah,
zombies. So it's like, I mean, it's like if I see a bub, I'm gonna pick up a bub every time I see it. If I see, Flyboy, I'm like, all right, dude, it's another Flyboy tape. Let me grab it. You know.
yeah, yeah. No, I get that and all that as well. It I love the speculation part of a zombie thing, like where they're kind of showing you a little bit of it, and you can kind of speculate or talk amongst each other and kind of figure out, okay, is it this, is that? I think that's what the show part of it did pretty good though too. I mean,
Mhm.
I guess they did technically tell you what it was, but it was always like that. Was it this or was it that? Kind of deal. Um, and trying to figure it out, but not being able to kind of get your hands around it. And I've always enjoyed that aspect of a zombie story as well. As like, okay, you think you know what it is, but then when you think you're like, okay, here it is, it kind of fades away. You're like, that's not it. It's something else. So it's toying around with the emotions a bit,
Mhm.
but in a good way.
Yeah.
You kind of, as a reader, as a fan of something, you kind of enjoy it because you're like, again, like, okay, it could have been this, but it also makes sense that it wouldn't be that, and it could be something else. So it's just like it's more story aspect, it's more story element and fun. It brings a fun kind of atmosphere to the story as you're reading the actual story.
And I think that was the kind of the sad part about Return of the Living Dead, right? They told you in the first movie exactly what it was:
Yeah,
trioxin. And it said,
yeah,
oh, it was made by the government. It gets out and it causes the whole world to turn into. I'm like, you know what? It was cool to see them do that, but if they would have waited like the third
yeah.
movie to do that, it would have made more sense. But then I think from movies perspective, right, it's different than comics, right? Like you don't know if you're going to get that second, third movie. So you might have to sell everything in one shot, and I think that's what they had to do.
Yeah, I think that's a when you kind of relate now until then as well, like you said, like that very well could have been the mentality of it though too, is selling a unique kind of story in one movie when you can kind of flesh things out nowadays. I think the average viewer, reader, viewer, whatever, wants to have their you know uh, emotion strings kind of pulled on here and there. You want that. You don't want it right away. Why would you want? I mean, like you think you do, but ultimately, when you're watching it, you love that like a almost adrenaline feeling of not really knowing, but you think you're gonna know, and then when you get there, you're like, no, it's not what it is. So it's just there's so many different things that go into it. And I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head right there as well about them just kind of not I don't want to say selling out because that seems like a negative thing, but for the lack of a better term, I want to say almost selling out,
Yeah.
saying like, okay, this is what we're doing, and stuff like that. But I get what you're saying there too. I agree.
And I was watching the documentary about Night of the Living Dead from Romero, right? And Romero
Hmm.
said, I don't care. If I make money off this movie, I make money off it. If I don't, I don't. So it's you know, but you got to think about it, right? That's 1960s, right?
Yeah.
Return of the Dead was 1985. You know, you got almost 30 years, and like he never expected to have Dawn of the Dead or Return of the Dead after the fact. He just expected, I'm gonna get one movie out, I'm gonna do whatever I want to, and it you know, it was a great thing he did because there was no way to know what was happening. But then it kind of killed it for a lot of other things too, right? Like, it's like you were such an unknown that it made you want more.
Yeah, it was a one-off kind of deal, mindset, where it's like you said, like he was just making it to make it. You know what I mean? Like he had a vision, he had an idea, he's just doing it. And that's why I don't know how. I know a lot of people are sort of against kind of remake deals, but like I'm open to a good remake trilogy of Night of the Living Dead, Return Dawn, and
Mm.
Return of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, and all that stuff. So like making it like a whole thing, but like thinking about it in a whole grand spectrum rather than going like, okay, one movie, one movie, one movie,
Mm.
telling it like it's going to be three, four movies. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Rather than thinking about it being one and one and one. I think that could be a very interesting way of telling the story. Being patient with Night of the Living Dead, because if you try to do like the action stuff with Night of the Living Dead, it's not going to work, in my opinion. You have to be patient with that movie because it is what it is. It you're in a house, you're in a barn house, Uh, so just very, really nailing that one and then kind of just taking it from there. Uh, and like we're talking about, not really knowing what's going on and have them slowly kind of figure things out. But yeah,
And that's what I kind of appreciate. Like when they did the 1990 remake, when Tom Savini did it with
yeah,
Tony Todd and them, it was done really well for that time, you know,
hmm
and that was 1990. Okay. Flash forward 34 years, right? We've got a long time since that came out. And so it's kind of time. Like even Dawn of the Dead, the remake Zack Snyder did,
yeah. So
it,
it's almost been 2 decades. Oh no, it has been two
it's been
decades
two
now.
decades.
It's been
Yeah.
2 decades already. So that's what I agree. I think it's been 2 decades from the last Dawn of the Dead, of the Dead kind of deal. I think if you just sit down, write it all out in 3-4 movies, have that in your mentality, and just slowly kind of again like make things feel, and or if you really wanted to make a mini series, you know what I mean, like yeah, a 3-season series or something, just a small, like, because shows are in now, as much as I really enjoy a good cinema and kind of going to the movie theaters and all that stuff as well, but some things need to be fleshed out in a series setting. And it, I think people are kind of copping out and moving that way more so than not. I'd rather kind of then be like, okay, this should be a movie,
Hmm.
make it a movie. Don't say, okay, this should be a movie, I'm going to make it a show anyways because it's a safer option. No, I think movies should be movies still. Don't sit there and make
Yeah.
something like a show when it doesn't need to be. But I do also believe that there are some shows or things out there that should be shows because it needs that time to breathe. And I guess arguing and bringing it into Avalon though too, I wouldn't want Avalon to be a movie. I need these characters to breathe. I need the emotions to
Yeah.
kind of be hit hard too. So yeah,
And that's why I think comics have such a hard time transitioning right to movies because there's so much storyline in it. And there's like, take X-Men, for example, right? X-Men's got hundreds and hundreds of issues of work and stuff. You can't put all that into one movie. You know, you can't do it. That's why like the animated series did well because you're able to flesh out a lot of stories of it. The Walking Dead was able to do it. And then they did all their spinoffs. Now, I will tell you, the spinoffs kind of kill it for a lot of fans because it's
yeah,
like, okay, A, it's not from the original source. B, it has nothing to do with what happened. Or C, that dude's supposed to be dead and now he's still alive. And you're telling me he squeaked out by this reason.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of hard, but then I also see some spinoffs that do well, right? Like, um, it just depends how it's written and how it comes across to the viewer.
I agree with that as well. Speaking more specifically to The Walking Dead right now, too, there are obviously I was a huge fan of the show series as well. Some of the spinoffs work and some of them I don't think work so much. You're kind of just doing too much, and I think you can almost make that argument with the Marvel universe as well. Right now,
Hmm.
there's so much, and I think they even acknowledge it at one point as well. It's like there's so much and too much to watch, and it's just like I'm sure it's all great, but it's just like, so you're being flooded.
Yeah.
When there's too much stuff going on, it's hard to really invest all your time. People got lives, people got day jobs, families, hobbies, and to be able to, you're not going to be able to watch show after show after show after show after show to figure out what's going on. You got to kind of slow it down.
And
And that's what The Walking Dead was guilty for too. But yeah.
that's what kind of killed it for me from Marvel, right? Like, for example, like, I could see any movie, right, in the big screen, or I could see it on a Blu-ray or whatnot.
Yeah.
They had the series that were on broadcast, like Agents of Shield and whatnot, right? But then you started adding in 8,000 different series on Disney Plus that you have to watch, and if you don't watch all of them, you're going to miss this one little part that's part of the next movie, and it's like that's the main reason I stopped reading mainstream comics. That was the ultimate reason, is because I don't want to read 8,000 books to get the one story. I want to read the one series.
Yeah. So that's, I never really got into any big Marvel series. I mean, fortunately, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know. You tell me, I guess. So I've never really kind of got into it. I've always heard like it sounds cool, but when you're doing it too often, when you're kind of interweaving stories so much, you're trying to get that. It makes it hard for like the collector though too, because when you got
Mhm.
something that's like, okay, first appearance of like Spider-Man or the Punisher, we'll say, you gotta what was it, Spider-Man is when he appeared
Yep,
first appearance, so you got to get that Spider-Man, so it's just like that's sold out, so it's impossible to get that unless it's some whatever. It just, you make it way too hard for different things, and I guess that's not the fault of Marvel, I guess, but there's just so much that goes into it, especially when you do it way too often. It gets too chaotic, and it's hard for people to actually be excited about something coming out and all that.
and that's what kind of happened is, right. You'd have like the normal books, like I used to read like 5 books a month, right, and from Marvel,
Mhm.
but then they would have this big like interweave story. So my 5 books became 35 books that I had
Yeah.
to read to get the whole story, and it's like budgetarily wise, most people don't do that, right? Like they
No.
can't, they're not going to say, especially at $5 a book, it starts adding up over time, and it's like, when you do that for months after month after month after month, your people are looking at it, they're like, is this really viable? Can I live this way, for a while? Because it's like you can't do it. There's too much story. So I looked at it from the perspective too, like they killed my main characters off. And I'm like, these are their main characters that you've had for like 30 years, and you're killing them off, saying, we're going to take a break from this guy. I'm like, this dude makes you money, so why are you taking a break?
Yeah, right. That's what it's so hard, as a reader. It's especially, it's just like, are you serious? Like, come on, give me something here. Especially when you like it's a big character. The character's making you money, like you said. Why stop doing it? Like you said, why? It's selling. It's working. So do it. Why ruin that for yourself? Why ruin that for the fans as well who are enjoying it? Um, but and I guess this talk as well, and the multi-universe, I don't know where my stance is on it too. Speaking more about the films, because I didn't really read the many of the comics as well, but like, when I think it takes away from death, it takes away from huge moments, that we've seen and that they've given us. Like, I guess, the easy one to talk about would be the Tony Stark one,
Yeah,
and how, like, you have that huge character arc over decades at that point. uh he came full circle, did this whole crazy thing, dies. A huge moment for the fans, for the characters. But at any time you have a time, you can just bring him back.
yeah,
I don't care for that, in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of that. I it sucks when a character dies. Bringing it in, kind of wrapping it into The Walking Dead, for
yeah,
instance, like, when a character dies in there, that's it. It sucks, but it's part of the story. It's part of the
yeah.
progression of storytelling as well. So it needs to happen, and that's why I think, especially with The Walking Dead though too, is that those things just hit, and those people felt those moments.
And that's what kind of killed it for me with Walking Dead when they killed Carl, right? They never killed Carl in the show or in the book. And
Yeah.
he's actually the main character of the story. It's not Rick. And they changed it to where Rick was really the main character and then Daryl over time. And it's like, wait a minute, you killed Carl off. How could you kill Carl off? He's supposed to be the one that
The
saves
future.
everybody.
He's supposed to be the future.
Yeah.
He's the story. And I that was a huge. setback for me. I don't care what people thought about Carl overall, Chandler Riggs or whatever it is, I didn't mind him, and then I think give him an opportunity. One of my favorite episodes that Chandler Riggs did, acting wise, was his final episode. He
Yeah.
did phenomenal in that episode. I couldn't believe the acting he did in that. So it's just like, if I was a producer or the showrunner or whatever, and I saw that performance on the last episode, I'd be slapping myself in the head. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I killed off Carl probably for budgetary reasons. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead, the whole budgetary problems with
Yeah.
AMC. So you're killing the franchise in the future of your series because you want a little bit more extra money in your pocket. Yeah,
And it was sad. Even Nicotero, you could tell the zombies changed over time too. Like they put so much time and effort into those zombies in the first 3 to 4 seasons,
yeah,
but then it started trailing off. Right? It looked like just a bunch of painted people with a couple of. You'd have like one good zombie and then like 30 like B zombies. Like that's what I expect out of a B movie, right? Not out of the
yeah.
Walking Dead show.
Yeah, and again, to me, budgetary money, AMC. It has nothing to do with the crew. I had full faith in that crew. Amazing people on that crew, and they showed it. You know what I mean? Like you said, those
Yeah.
first couple seasons, all that, they really showcased it. Um, I as much as the original kind of staff and all that stuff picked a wonderful staff and all that, ultimately the AMC was the killer of The Walking Dead,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I mean, they could have with. I mean, even the governor, right? The governor was done really well the whole season with
Yeah,
him. How they brought in Negan, that was a good way of doing it, right?
yeah.
And they picked the perfect person to be
Oh,
Negan. I mean,
yeah,
he's Negan. He always will be. But it's just like you have. There are some things that they didn't want to go into, right? Like Carol's true story
yeah,
of what really happened to Carol, right?
yeah,
And they never went into it, right? Like even the same way with Daryl's brother, right? Like that doesn't last long. That's not even in the story, right? And it's like that's a Daryl and his brother are not even in the original story.
yeah,
That was made for TV.
yeah.
But what really got me was the John Bernthal, right? He dies in the second comic, and he's all the way into the second season causing problems. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I get it. They're doing it because it's TV, right? And they're stretching it out.
Yeah.
But I'm like, there are a lot of changes they lost a lot of fans because of all the TV changes to it.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. They did a lot of different things, and I think some of them they did right. I think some of them, it makes sense for, and I believe that the Shane adjustment worked, in my opinion. One of my favorite seasons was season 2, just because the drama element of it, and the characters felt like characters, like real people,
Mhm.
rather than just like somebody on a piece of paper and act it out. Um, I really enjoyed season 2 a lot. A lot of the drama aspect of it. But they did a lot. I think they did some good things, and they did a lot of bad things. And a lot of it wasn't because they're stupid. I don't believe they're stupid. I think a lot of it is penny pinching, and that's the annoying thing to me, is that we could. I mean, even talking about season 8, the horrendous season 8, the all out war.
Oh
That
yeah,
wasn't a war. What are you
no,
showing me? Okay, there's supposed to be all out war. You're hyping this up. There's no war. I mean, there is a war, but it's a off screen war. It's not even like they don't even show anything.
no.
And that's what I'm saying. Again, budgetary issues, and it just frustrates me as a fan uh, of both comic and show.
And that's what kind of got me. Like, yeah, like you're supposed to have Alpha and Beta fighting against everybody.
Yeah,
Negan's supposed to go to Alpha's team, right, and try to make things better, but he ultimately makes it worse in the comics, And it's like,
yeah,
okay, and then he ends up having all of Alpha's team fight Rick and everybody, and then
yeah,
Negan tries to take back over, but then at the end of it, Negan's like, you know what, this is stupid, and he
yeah.
said, let's just be done with all this stuff. And he finally gets it after like 60 issues. It's not worth his time and effort anymore.
Well, yeah, which is great, and again, doing things in different ways. I think it's necessary, bringing it from paper to screen as well. I do think that it helps to do that. in different aspects as well. But like you said, I mean, you're playing with a fine line there. You're not really you're working with weird details that maybe shouldn't be touched upon. You might be doing some true to the comic kind of stuff too. You got to find a good line of it. Yeah, I think you're muted. I think you're good now.
Yeah, okay. Um, I think one of the things they could have done a little differently, right, was they originally talked about having a movie, right, with Rick
Yeah,
originally,
it's trilogy. Yeah,
the trilogy. To me, that would have made more sense, actually, right? Have Rick Michonne and them finish up everything, right, from Walking Dead.
yeah,
Finish up Daryl's part. Don't put Daryl in France. Come on now.
yeah. No, here's the thing. This is what I'll say about the Daryl series. It's good, but why? You know what I mean? Like I'm enjoying it. I guess I'm having fun I'm watching it, but why?
Yeah,
Do we like for what? It doesn't make sense to me. It's like, come on, I don't really. I could be good without it. You know, I'm
yeah.
enjoying it because I do like Norman Reedus. I like him as
Mhm.
as a person. He seems like a genuine guy. And then Daryl as a character as well. But like, come on, you didn't need to do that. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and to me, and I think that's what kind of is we got zombied out, right, for a while too, right? There were so
Yeah,
many shows out, you know. So it was kind of nice there's a break, right? Even in comics, there was a break, right? For a
yeah,
long time. Like Night of the Living Dead finally came back and they had their own series for a while and they're American. And it was a great series. But then we get to Lori's and your book, right? And it's a different perspective
yeah,
on it. And I appreciate it. So thank you for writing the way you do, right? Because it's different. It's enough to keep my attention, which is pretty easy if it's written well, right? You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
if it's just, like there's a fine line between good writing and bad art, right? And then good
yeah.
writing and good art will definitely keep me there, and it makes sense. So you guys have done a great job. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. But and I think ultimately, having the writing room that we have, we're all fans of the genre. We all know what it is. We're true fans. We enjoy all the aspects of it. Even the corny ones too. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like there's a
Yep.
lot of corny zombie things out there. But those are enjoyed in our own kind of way as well. But just being true fans of the genre, bringing all that kind of real feeling to it. The original idea came from me simply asking myself, like, how would I personally survive the zombie apocalypse? And I really stuck true to like that way of thinking, and I really started to relate it to with the three brothers. I have two brothers myself, so it's just really putting my own life into it as well, and over dramatizing some of the things as well. I mean, it's not obviously dot to dot with my life, but it's just like adding those things that are close to me into it as well. So it makes it that much more true to the story and the characters and how the rawness and the realness is.
And that actually helps a story a lot of times, right? If you can put yourself into the story, into that situation, right, you can develop it a lot better
Yeah,
because you can say, "Hey, what would I do in this situation?" Like I know what I would do. I mean, I'm retired military, so I already know what I would do. Like
yeah,
let me find me a gun, and I'll just start
yeah,
shooting them in the head because that's like the normal thing, right? You shoot the zombie in the head, he
yeah,
dies. Typically, but I would love for a story where you shoot them in the head and they just laugh at you.
yeah,
That would be a funny, but like there it's like the trope don't work, right? And that would be kind of a cool thing to see. But I know for me, I'd be in the same boat. Like I would have to figure out like how do I survive, and like for my family, right? I've got 5 kids,
yeah.
and so mentally you have to think, how do I protect all my kids? How do I protect my wife in a situation like that, right? And so a lot of things would change real fast.
And right, there's those you have a lot of questions there as well. There's a lot of people to kind of cover for and have on your mind, and that's something that we do plan on adding as well. Is there are people out there who do have I mean 2 3 kids is a lot in that scenario.
Yeah.
It's such a everybody has a unique story on their own, and then when you put their life on in the zombie element of all this stuff, and more specifically our zombie story as well, with the zombies that we are kind of carrying, it adds a whole so much different potential constantly, and depending on where we're putting families or groups or characters at certain points of the story as well, it's going to be interesting. And right now we have some good stuff rolling for us in season 2. I'm excited to kind of get that ready. I mean, obviously issue 6 here, that we're, with the Kickstarter that we have right now is, kind of going to be answering a lot of questions that we kind of had throughout the issues, and then sparking up new questions for and getting everybody pumped up for season 2. And that first issue is like I'll say right here too, is like with issue 7, I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself, but it's going to be such like a nice season opener / breather too, because we haven't seen that yet in this season yet. So to start it off that way, and have it kind of do that, and then kind of get moving on the season 2, it's going to be a cool difference in season and difference in tempo. A little bit too, so I'm excited for all this.
Definitely. Well, let's go and bring it up, and that way we can show everybody.
Yeah.
See what we got. And all right. So here we go. All right. So we got here is we're at $590 out of 1,282. Got 19 backers and 29 days ago.
Perfect. Yeah, just started at 7:00. Just trying to get moving. Doing our thing.
All right. So you got it for a month. So it ends on the 6th of October.
Yep.
I've seen it all. I'm a big backer guy. I mean, I just paid for 2 today, but that's kind of how it is. It's like some are 14 days, some are 21, some 30.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a look. All right. So, okay. So I keyed in on this part here, right? So you've had this idea for 10 years already, and so how did you meet everybody? How did it get the group together?
Yeah, so Alan and I, we ended up working at the same job together in 2018 here, and when we kind of first we kind of hit it off right away, just being who we are in general, and then we started to figure out a little bit more, and that we're both kind of creators. Alan was in a band before I met him a couple years, around probably the 2014 years. So I didn't know him then, obviously, but that's when his band was out. Then, push comes to shove, something, he stopped doing the band, and then we meet up years later, and then now it's like a full circle feeling where he kind of felt like, okay, I want to start getting into entertainment, creating again, and I've always wanted to be a creator and get into entertainment as well. And we kind of were just spitballing, and then we came up with the idea of doing our own production, our own business, which would be the 1282 label that you see on the cover of every issue. And first project that we kind of lined up with was Avalon, because this is one of the projects that just seemed like it was just flowing once we started. And then every time we kind of met and got together to discuss it and figured out what we wanted to do, it just started flowing. And then we're like, okay, this is going to be the first introduction to what we're doing. So we're also working on other aspects of things like, other comics, short films, feature films, music, all that stuff. So all that stuff's behind closed doors right now. We're trying to figure out the best way of kind of doing all that stuff and the perfect timing for all this stuff as well. But all that stuff is in the making, in the works.
Cool. Yeah, I noticed that when I saw the 1282 here. I figured it was y'all's production company for it. So.
Yeah, no, and I guess also, sorry, I just saw it here. I left Demetrius out, but we were looking for an artist, obviously, for this comic after we kind of established it a bit. We were trying to figure out what we wanted to do, and then after we figured out that, okay, black, white, and blood, that was the original idea before the color kind of got splashed on the back there, and then we were looking on Instagram for months and months and months. We were, finding people, we couldn't, nobody, we couldn't find the right person, all this stuff that goes in between, all the business stuff in between. And then we landed Demetrius. I messaged him right away. I knew he was going to be the guy. He was a go-getter right away. He was all for it when I kind of gave him the pitch of what Avalon was about. He sent us a concept page. I loved it, and then we kind of just started working together from there, and it just started kind of just turning into what it is today. He's just, he's awesome for Avalon, awesome individual to work with. And he obviously has great, great work.
And that's the one thing that, for me is like for a company, right? Like you've got to have the good people, and there's the business part. Like I'm an old business owner, so I know how that goes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like there's a lot of intricacies that you have to do, not just contracts, not just paying things to get done, but having forecasted budgets, projects. You know, building a comic book is not easy either, because if you've never done it before, right? It takes a lot. Just looking at the covers here alone, right? Like each one of these takes a time to get built and done and colored, depending if you have, the same person doing pencils, inks, and colors, or if they're doing pencils, then they have an ink guy, then there's a color guy. There's a lot of work that goes into this.
Yeah. And that I started to, fully appreciate the more I got into it and the more issues that we were kind of doing, the more time I was spent on it. Is that there's so much that goes into it. And actually, even before the art part, when we were figuring it out as a script format too, there was such a
Mm-hmm.
process. And we're like, okay, there's so many things that we were like, okay, we got this. We like it, but we're not happy with it. We had so many different drafts and especially in the beginning, it was hard to really perfect what we wanted in the beginning, like how we wanted to tell this story. Um, which so it just all that goes into, there's so much that goes into it. And it's years and years later, I'm still learning. I still want to be a sponge. I still want to kind of take in information from people. I'm never going to be where I want to be. I always want to have that learning mentality and just kind of take in all the information I can get from anybody in the industry and any aspect of the entertainment industry.
Yeah, and writing is one of those things too, right? Like I've been a writer for a long time, especially doing editorials and whatnot. It's a different animal in the comic world than anywhere else in the world, right? Like,
Yeah.
the way the style is written in a comic book, is like two people talking, constantly, right? And the dialogue part. That takes a little bit of time to adjust to get used to that. Like if you go from a novelization where it's X, Y, and Z, well, that artist doesn't know what X, Y, and Z is. You got to tell
Yeah.
them what that is. You got to say, oh, there's a tree here, there's a boat here, and then there's water here, right? Like, hey, the boat's going through the water and it sees a tree, and then they say, oh, I can draw that now, right?
Well, that's the best part about having Demetrius and just an artist and in general, and as we write it, and obviously I have like a general understanding of how I want this kind of panel layouts and pages to kind of go, but to see his art kind of evolve and his layouts evolve as well, it makes my job easier as a writer, because now I don't have to get so in depth with what I'm kind of doing or
Mm-hmm.
what I'm kind of thinking, because I could put it in there like, okay, this is what I want, and if this is a specific thing I need in here, he's gonna execute it. He's gonna get it there, and that's come with just years of knowing each other. And I'm so glad to have the same relationship that we're still building on and getting to know each other even more and more as time goes on. But to have each other and know each other, what each other want before we even kind of say it's such a good dynamic to kind of have.
And I noticed that reading through the issues, right? The flow kind of changed after issue
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and 4. Like by the time you got to 5, it was a flowing art story at that
Yeah.
point, right? Like you could see that from panel to panel to panel as it was going through it.
Right, and that just shows like the how comfortable we got with each other as time went on as well. I was pretty strict with what I wanted in issue one. I wanted it a certain way. I just had it in my head the way it was, before really kind of understanding and knowing Demetrius. But over the time, kind of like you said, like over the issues and issues and issues, you could just see how natural it just kind of seems, and like how it just comes to him and it flows perfectly.
Well, and it's always scary for issue 1. I mean, everybody's scared for issue 1. Like, is this going to sell or is it going to tank, right? And
Right.
that's the golden question of the day. Because if you can get that number 1 to go and it sells well, then you at least know you have a good startup, and it gives you the confidence, like, okay, we're doing the right thing, right? And
Right.
and it's going, and people enjoy it, and
Right.
so and that gives you the motivation to keep pushing on, pushing, and then you'll get to a point where you're going to push your own boundaries of writing, right? Like you're going to get to the point where like, how far can I go with this story, before it gets to be too much for certain readers, right? And that's kind of it's a gray area, right? In a lot of comic books today, is that how far can I push it before it scares the reader, but hey, this is a zombie book, so come on, you should already know that there are going to be scary, horrific parts,
Yeah.
but then at the same time, you don't want to alienate everybody at the same time.
100%, and that was the huge stress, and obviously the stress of not knowing how to do it. I had to learn, and we all had to learn as a group, really, how to do this and what we kind of wanted and all that stuff as well. And so all those kind of stresses in the beginning too, but those stresses slowly fade away as time goes on, and you know, uh, again, as you get more and more comfortable with the team and all that stuff too, it's such a we start instilling like a confidence in each other, and it's awesome to have.
It is. It just takes time. I mean,
Yeah,
that's like every company is going through the same thing.
yeah.
All right, so let's start going through some of this, right? Okay, so let's start here. So first time backers. So I'll let you kind of go through some of this.
Yeah, so obviously we kind of want get right to the point for people who, we know people. Some people are like, okay, I just want to get right to the point. Let me see what you got. You already sold me on it. So we kind of give that option. We have a first time backer. If you are seeing this and you've heard it, kind of stumbled across it and you're a zombie fan, we're making it easy. We're making it very affordable for you as well. $25 for all 6-issue PDFs. And you'll get them as soon as they're done as well. That's not something you're going to actually be waiting for. As soon as the issue is done itself, you're going to be getting them all PDF wise. And then we also have physical backer, a physical catch up tier for people who obviously like the physical products. I'm speaking for myself as well. I
Yep.
prefer having a physical product, and making it affordable for all 6 of them as well. I've seen people kind of sell each issue for $10, and we're making it $40 for 6 issues as well. So kind of get your hands on it and kind of see what we're about. You're going to get the whole volume rather than waiting for because sometimes in the indie world it takes a
Hmm.
little bit of time to kind of get these issues out. So you're going to be getting this whole volume for $40, and the covers as well, the amazing covers that Demetrius does, and actually kind of jumping into the covers. If you're a cover collector, we're doing 3 different covers this time around. Obviously, you saw the cover A on that little kind of 6 cover thing there on the bottom right. We're doing a cover B that he's still finishing up on. And if you've seen Demetrius's covers in the past, he always executes. He's always somebody that really takes pride in the cover art and showcasing it to the viewer and to the reader as well. And something unique that we're going to be doing for the finale of this season is we're calling it the cover G. The cover G is going to be a gold foiled cover of the standard cover, the cover A. It'll be a gold foil. We're getting in contact with the printing company and seeing how they're going to be able to do it. But that's going to be the gist of what you're kind of getting in a gold foil manner as well. And to kind of simplify the statement, do you want it all? We have a supply crate offer, and that basically gives you all the physical products and some of the PDFs as well for everything that you can get. All the PDFs for 1 through 6. You're getting all 3 covers, the cover print, and Mrs. Martin 11x17 poster as well.
Nice. All right. Yep. And that's the thing, right? If you like zombies, this is a book for you. You know.
As simple as that. If you're a zombie fan, we're fairly confident that you're going to at least enjoy this a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're gonna be interested enough to kind of keep reading it.
Exactly. Let's see. All right, let me show them some. Yeah. So this was a big one for me, right? Like reading through like this kid has got issues, like severe issues, with like anxiety and other things, right? And you put a kid like that into an Armageddon,
Yeah.
situation, like how do they react, right? And I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm going to tell you this kid is going to be one of the characters you're going to have to watch in the book.
Yeah, no, and that's just it. Even this specific scene here alone, him taking a puff of an inhaler as well. So it just show okay, now there's a medical issue as well. Not only is there mental, there's physical issues as well. So and that's showcasing to the reader that we're going to be really articulating it. How we stress it time and time again. Physical and mental health is going to be a big part of our story moving forward, and it's going to be the forefront of it as well. It's not going to be something where we kind of tease it show it for a little bit, and then it slowly fades away, and this character never gets talked about it again or whatever. It's the main character, so this is going to be a part of the story moving forward.
Yeah. And I like how we were talking earlier, right? The main protagonist is the family. It's not just
Yeah,
one; it's everyone.
yeah,
Okay. All right. So here, at 24 pages, 23 pages of black, white, and blood. And I will tell you guys, reading through it, I love seeing this. But here is the thing too. Like I remember this scene too, right, with him and his brothers. Like,
yeah.
did something happen to his brother? Right? And it's like because there was that question of, what happened to the brother? Why does he have blood all over him? And I was like,
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it just and the way he kind of showcases the blood though too. The blood, is a natural indicator for a person when they're reading it, to kind of kind of have their eyes kind of gauge to it, especially for a page like this too. You can start. I mean, just the top left of the page, there's a little bit of blood there on Mason's head, and then you're
yep,
kind of going through the middle there through Ty, and then the infected, and then when you kind of scroll down, there's still more blood to be splashed too. So a lot of what Demetrius does is very cool in that manner too. Is like the way he does his blood is it kind of you work your eye across what you're supposed to be reading.
mm-hmm. And then you have the little bit of color that gets added in and spot. And I will say I love this look to the eye, right? Like you see it in black and white too, but when you see that little bit of red there, puts into a different perspective with the color.
Yeah, of course. So now, what's actually a cool kind of indication for for the readers too is now when you see infected people that's what their eyes look like in color. It gives you that. We're answering that question for you, so you're not left unknown in that kind of category of like, okay, what do they look like? Do they have bloodshot eyes, or they white eyes, or things of that nature? You can kind of see what it is. And really, again, having the color have that splash page, it really lets you know you're at the end of the issue, and on top of it too, it just like it signifies that moment. It really gives you, it makes you look a little bit more at that wow moment when you're kind of just sitting there at the end and you're really taking it in, because even with this coloring too, Demetrius does a really good job with the grayscales and the coloring. He just does a phenomenal job.
And that's kind of hard to do, right? Because I've noticed a lot of people, right, is that they can do some great pencils and inks, right, but they don't do the colors as well. And that takes a good artist to really go through and take their time to make sure it looks right, because making it look in black and white versus making it look in color, two completely different things, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because I've heard, because I don't know any better. I don't draw. So, but I've actually heard that from people in the past as well, that they're like, it's very unique that Demetrius is capable of doing that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's unique that he does what he does, to me, just in general. But when people are kind of specifying that that's just another thing, I was like, it's really cool that Demetrius is able to do it, and again, to have him be a part of this and be capable of doing these cool deals, because again, the idea is great. I love the idea of black, white, and blood, and then the last page is a color thing. But like you said, if you're having one dude do all of it, and he's capable of doing all of it the way he is, we're really lucky to have him be a part of this journey with us.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I've got a few friends who do that. They can do all of it,
Yeah,
but it just takes some time.
sure,
Um,
yeah, sure it does. Yeah,
because you got to think of it from two different perspectives, right? Like the black and white is all about the pencils, the inks, the shades, the light, the lights and darks in the rooms,
yeah,
versus the colors where it can be highlighted out to show things differently.
yeah, yep, exactly, yep.
That poor guy. I feel so bad for his partner.
Yeah, yeah. I know. It's a, and that was actually a fun. I love the two of them. It was fun writing both of them as well. But it was definitely necessary for the story progression and what we're kind of showcasing to the reader. To everybody reading it too. It was necessary to show the little bit the transformation. I'll kind of leave it a little vague there as well, but having the transformation and all that stuff for people to kind of see and understand and all that. But yeah.
Now I'm noticing this too. I'm looking at the pages, right, and then I see like 2022. So you guys have been doing this for a little bit then.
We've been doing this since 2022. We've been out for 2 years now. We'll be going on 3 years in March of next year. Published wise, we've been with Demetrius since before that. We were actually just talking about it on our last show as well with Lori. But 2021, we've been working with each other. 2022, we is when we first published our first issue. Um, but yeah, it's awesome to be where we are here today. To have this first volume out, and working towards the trade paperback as well, because we're going to be doing something a little bit different. The reason that we don't have the trade paperback accessible to this Kickstarter is because Demetrius was adamant about remaking issue one.
Mm,
The style, obviously changed from one to two and so on. He wants to kind of do the original script in the style that he has now and offer that as well with the trade paperback, um, which is going to be kind of a cool, unique deal as well. And we're going to have some fun with what we put in the trade paperback for everybody.
see, and I appreciate. I was going to ask about that because usually about issue 5, 6, we've been seeing most people do trade paperbacks, and it's always a good avenue. Like if you want to get everything all in one book to
Yeah,
read, for that. But like for me, I like hardcover stuff as well, right? So I do a lot of like omnibuses, where I do like a hardcover of like 10 issues, and from because my kids can't destroy it as easily as a
yeah,
trade
yeah.
paperback, and B, I can read more at the same time.
Yeah, no, I enjoy that as well. I actually, I have more trade paperbacks than hardcovers as well, but hardcovers are always great. I don't really have more of a preference. I just whatever I have, I guess. But we are excited to do the trade paperback with the 6 issues here and have the whole kind of volume in there and the whole season in there. It's going to be kind of a cool deal to see it all. And like I said, we're going to be adding the cool bonus stuff too, with like trade or concept art. When we first kind of were talking
Mm.
with Demetrius, um, behind the scenes script writing and interactions between Demetrius and myself, and talking through pages and why we decided to do certain things and X, Y, and Z of that nature too. So just some bonus content, obviously all the covers and all that stuff too. But there's gonna be some cool different things that we're gonna be adding to the uh, trade paperback coming out next year.
See, that's gonna be nice because I mean, I always enjoy seeing the behind the scenes pieces.
Me
Like,
too.
where does it start, right?
Me
Where was
too.
it?
Yeah.
I was like, because I buy a lot of original art, right? And so they're like, hey, do you want? Yes, I want the preliminary stuff too, because I want to see where it started at from the beginning. From like, you did a sketch here, it went to a pencil here to an ink here, and then to somebody to do a color. Well, 90% of the stuff I have in my office is black and white
Yeah.
because a lot of times there are some people who do color and it washed out everything, right? It washed out everything that was done in that ink or in that pencil. And I've seen inks do that too to pencils. So it's kind of that, you got to play the game kind of thing, on that one.
Yeah, no, I get that 100% too, and I'm a huge fan of the behind the scenes stuff as well, just in other things as like movies or books, comic books and all that things of that nature too. Um, I've always enjoyed that stuff, even movie specific, like when they used to put that on the DVDs where or the blooper reels or the bonus
Hmm.
material, kind of having commentary kind of through stuff. I've always enjoyed watching those things and just seeing the mindset of where the creators are in the whole process of building the project and all that.
That's what's kind of sad. Like, because I still buy Blu-rays, 4Ks, and whatnot for media. A lot of times they don't do blooper reels anymore. Like you don't see that too often. Like you'll see
You
like
do not see it much at all. Yeah.
you'll see the documentary on where it was, what it started with, where it went, and like I want to see where they messed up.
Yeah, it's funny. I've always enjoyed those too, and it's funny because I always like making those too, and just making the blooper reels because there's always a blooper. You know what I mean? You're never going to do everything perfect, and even people are genuine people themselves. It's always fun stuff, even if it's a serious movie. You mess up, it's funny. Whatever it is. I always like seeing those too, and like you said, they don't do it much anymore. Hell, I don't even know if at all. You know what I mean? So it's just like I don't remember the last time I've seen a blooper reel for a movie. Honestly, I can't tell you.
I think the last one I saw might have been a horror movie, like maybe 10 or 15 years ago. you know, and even then, I mean, it was like I remember like when Anchor Bay used to come out with all their stuff for horror. Like they'd have every blooper reel in the world. They could find it, they put it on the DVD.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and I enjoyed that because I remember watching Evil Dead. Well, Evil Dead is two and Army of Darkness are kind of comedic anyways.
yeah.
But to have them see even mess up even more was even funnier.
Yeah, 100%. 100% it is. And honestly, I don't even remember the last time I've seen it. Like I said, I think it had to have been a comedy movie of some sort, but I don't even remember which one it was because when was the last like great comedy movie? You know what I mean? So it's just like different world we're living in nowadays.
It is like I mean I come from the age of Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, in that so it's like okay there wasn't a whole lot of like comedy after that,
Yeah,
other than The Hangover, right,
yeah,
and
yeah. You're
American
right. You're
Pie,
right. Right.
and it's like okay, but other
Crude
than that,
stuff. There's
exactly.
no real crude stuff anymore. You know, and I don't know. We'll see what happens in the future.
All right, got some interior pages of six
Yeah,
here.
just the inking there as well. We'll be adding some more stuff. One more page here in a moment here, just kind of letting things breathe a minute. But we'll be adding another page as well to kind of show, the proof as well. We kind of did the stages a little bit differently as well this time around. Uh, so he's able to speed it up the process and kind of doing most of the pencils, move into inks, and then kind of because the pencils for him he's specified was like the longest part for him. So
Mhm.
he tried to get rid of a lot of the pencils. He said the inking and coloring part's pretty quick for him. So that's why you just see the inking part. So when he finishes the color part, I'll transition into the full page that you'll see on paper and uh, on in the issue itself. But yeah,
Well, this shows that the dynamic, right? It shows
yeah,
that he's not fighting just zombies; he's fighting humans
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Because there's looters and there's, it's that thing that what happens, right? When you have Armageddon happen, all our anarchy breaks out,
yeah,
and so now you're having to deal with all the other people. Hey, there's you.
yep.
All
And
right.
just a quick about you got to throw it in there, I guess, huh?
Yep.
Of
Got
everybody, the team.
gotta have the team. All right. So there's Demetrius. Now, is Demetrius here in the States or is he overseas or
He's overseas. He lives in Greece.
okay.
So actually, the last when we got off the show with Lori earlier this evening, it's the first time he's actually been on an interview, which was
Mm.
great. Which was great, to be talking to him in an interview setting as well, and have Lori and all them talk to him as well. It was kind of cool for everybody too, but. Uh, it's hard because I think they're like 5 or 6 hours ahead of us or something like that. It's a crazy number. So he really put in the grind there and stayed up pretty late for that show, which was awesome for us. And we thanked him and all that stuff too. But yeah,
Definitely. Well, and it does make it hard. Like I've got friends, who live in the Philippines and Korea and stuff, and it's like
yeah,
trying to get everybody. Nope. The
it's too hard. Yeah, no, I get that.
editor. Oh, yeah, that's one of the most important people.
Yep, yep, very important job there because and even for myself, I can get ahead of myself quite a bit, and that's why I like to have a team of writers around me too. Is like I can go wild with the ideas, and as long as they're kind of around helping me, making sure that the the plot stays on track and it doesn't get any get crazy there. But it's always nice to work with a team and kind of go back and forth with each other and have the good conversation about what we're figuring out and all that.
And it does, especially when you can bounce them off of each other. Like talking to Carissa and Lori, right? Like they do a lot of the back and forth, and like Lori's been writing for Psycho South over on Charters
Yeah,
for a while, and it's nice to see that people bounce it off. It's like, does this make sense? Like, could we actually really do this, right?
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and, and
No, it definitely helped because I mean, I'll speak for myself where it's just like I get wild ideas. I get crazy kind of
mhm.
thoughts and how I want to make this story. And sometimes those crazy thoughts aren't good. So having people kind of tell you so or kind of talk you out of some things or, maybe have an idea and then you kind of articulate it into making a little bit more sense and you originally had to. I like banter. I like the conversations, the banter about the project and the story and all that stuff too. It helps kind of understand the characters, and it does best for the story plot going forward.
And that's kind of the hard part, right? Like you can have the wild idea, right? But what is it going to affect 3 books, 4 books, 5 books down the
Right.
road?
Is it going to make sense? Is it good? Is it good? Is it proper to kind of do that? The idea might itself might be awesome.
Yeah,
I've heard amazing ideas, but it's just like you said, like how is it going to affect this ultimate story overall? Is it necessary, or is it going to screw with something in the future that we ultimately want? But yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of ideas are awesome at face value, but once you start digging in, you're like, okay, no, it's
yeah.
not going to work.
It's like, what if you killed Andy in issue 6?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
what
That's
would
what I
that
was saying. How would that change the story a little bit there too? So it's just like probably a lot. You know what I mean?
exactly? That's kind of the catch. Like I've seen, and that's kind of what the big two have done over the last couple of years. They killed so many characters and they bring them back, and then people are like, okay, we're tired of reading it. You've killed Wolverine how many times? Now he's back.
Yeah, right. It takes away from, and that's what we are kind of talking about earlier. It's like you take away from like that feeling. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. You know what I mean? You killed him twice, and I mean, it was cool that they brought back. It was a Deadpool movie, I guess, talking about
Yeah,
that. Seeing him in that fashion and all that stuff too, because I think it was needed. Um, and then, but it's just like again, I had fun with the movie, but like I can't keep seeing it like that. I don't want to,
yeah,
because you're taking away from the original death from Logan and all that stuff too. So it's just like it was again, it worked for what it was, but I don't want to see too much of it.
yeah. And that was the thing. Like Logan was one of my favorite movies,
Oh,
right? Like
great movie.
he dies in the end, and then X-23 takes over for him.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, she's going to take up the mantle. That's why they did it the way they did it, is so like she could be the new Wolverine. You didn't need any new guy,
yeah,
you just needed her. And they bring her back, now, which I thought was kind of good. They brought her back in the Deadpool movie, as X-23. So I'm like, okay, then maybe those catapult her still, you know. But Jackman's got to like stop.
yeah. Right. I think right. You have to. It's too much craziness going on. Again, it's taken away from the true. When you're pulling on the strings of my heart there with Logan, and then you're bringing it, and bringing it back, and that goes with Tony Stark. It goes with all the
Hmm.
people that you've killed off in the movies and all that stuff too, and I mean in the comics too. But it just I don't know. I want to if when they die, they need to be dead. And as much as you
Exactly.
hate them to be dead, but it means something when they're dead. That's like okay, they can just come back whenever.
Well, good example, right? We've got the Falcon, who's Captain America now, right?
Yeah,
If you bring Steve Rogers back, and say, "Oh, I'm back now," all that work you just did, Marvel, across the series, Bucky and Falcon, and
yeah.
now the Captain America Brave New World movie, that's for nothing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, you're just stealing money from people at that point, and you know what I mean. Like it's just like it's like you said, that was all for nothing. It's annoying. I don't know.
mm,
It's
I
it's
don't know.
yeah, I can we it'd be beating a dead horse with me with that one. It's just
There's a difference between remaking a movie and then just prolonging the inevitable, and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
prolonging it.
constantly, and it's just a re-prolong every single time.
I wanted to highlight these ones here real fast.
Yeah.
We've got the Mark and Andrea bundle. It's 130 for the sketch, and you get all the books and everything.
Yeah, so we with the last campaign we had 5 original pencil sketches that Demetrius did. They're all duos like this, and this is going to be like a one of one. And not only that, they're going to be very rare because he's in Greece, obviously. So this
Hmm.
is original penciling by him. It's an 11 by 17 poster signed by him as well. One of one. Again, this is the last one we had to offer from the last campaign. Like I said, we sold 4 of them out of 5. This is the last one, but this is such a cool deal. I need to get one for myself, just in general. Just have them make one for me, period. Because it's again, we were talking about a little bit earlier too, is just having the original artwork and seeing the original lineups too. And he does a lot of his work digitally now. So he said it was like weird for him to kind of transition back into the penciling too, with pencil and paper too. So it was kind of like a unique thing as well for him, and it was a fun experience for him to kind of go back to that for a moment.
Yeah, like for me, I like both. I like both, regular, penciling and inking, but I also understand digitally too, right? Like
Yeah,
as long as it's really digital, right? Not
yeah,
AI,
yeah,
digital, two different things. Um, but I appreciate when they take the time to do that because that when they do it on a piece of paper versus digital, it takes a lot different because you're looking at it differently how you would do
yeah.
it. So
Well,
it's
right, and that's always the fun part too. Is like because I have him send me, and we'll be sharing promotional stuff too. Is like he does like time lapse videos, like, and he'll record himself as he's drawing, and I'll obviously speed it up 10 times because like you'd be there for hours. You know what I mean?
hours.
But like
Yeah,
so it's just like so it's fun. We'll be posting one probably sometime this upcoming week here of a time lapse video of him doing the coloring alone of the cover of issue 6 here, and we have two other ones on our TikTok and all that stuff as well. I always love watching those videos. So I tell him any chance he gets, just record himself drawing it and all that stuff too. It's such a cool deal. But I always watch. I like watching the process and being in like the head of him, the brain while he's doing it too. It's such an interesting process to watch.
definitely. Yeah, especially when you see him like going from like you see this arm to this leg to this head, like you see all the color, and it's like
Yeah,
before that the speed round through that is might take you what a couple of minutes to watch, but that was 8 hours of work
yeah,
for that
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, seriously, and that's just the crazy reality of that too. And it's such a cool, unique kind of watch too when you are watching it.
all right, we got some add-ons. You get your signature for $5 on there. The PDF.
So
This is that's the print, right?
yeah, that'll be an Andy print. It's about like 8 by 11, I think is what it is. I can't remember the exact measurement, but it's about like the size of a piece of white paper. But it's in a cardstock material paper, which is awesome to feel. $5 there too. We have some kind of left over there too. That one right there is cover B of issue 2. I've specified in past kind of interviews as well as a lot of our variants we only offer at our Kickstarters and live like events that we are present at. We don't sell them online after this. We don't, give them away or anything like that. So you can only purchase them here on Kickstarters and at events that we are attending. So we have a little bit extra before we sell out of that we're offering as well. Uh, yeah, a nice Santa Claus infected. Holiday seasons are coming up too. And Lori says it best too is you can use it for Christmas and you can use it for Halloween.
That's right. Make that into a Christmas card.
Yeah,
Call it a
yeah.
day. All right. We got this one.
Adding the issue there. And this one's a fun one too. That for the first time since we did this is another artist, a local artist. He lives in Erie here with me. He does a lot of the promo art for our local Erie Horror Fest.
Mhm.
It's a film fest. He does a lot of the artwork for that. So I reached out to him, and he was excited to be a part of it. Being both Erie natives as well, and so this is 11 by 17 poster that he did that we're going to be offering as well.
Nice. Cover B. Yeah. Hey, get a T-shirt. 18
Yep.
bucks.
Yep.
All right. Stretch goals. Let's see. Free stickers. I like free stuff.
I'm a big fan of free.
I am too. More free stuff to get, the better. But you gotta pay, guys. You gotta get in here. All right, free gold A. Everyone receive a free PDF catch up of 1 through 6. Hey, you just need 100 backers to get there.
Yep, and everybody can get it.
All right, and we're printing and see. I liked it. See, this is my favorite part. There is no AI.
Yeah, no, I know the huge controversy with it, and not that we would even add it even if we, liked it that way too. It takes away from the true, authentic, artist, the originality of it as well. Not a fan of it. I don't get the hype behind it. I don't even like doing like the AI stuff for like a picture of myself. How like they do the like it's like a selfie of yourself, and you do like the AI, and you're like, okay, you look like
Yeah.
the thing. And I'm not into it like that. I know some people are. I mean, I guess whatever if you are, but I'm just not into it like that.
And that's the thing, right? It's like when I look at it from this perspective, right? We have artists who do all this great work, right?
Yeah,
And then somebody can take a tool and then scrape it off of it and make their own thing, and then they put some commands in, right? And they make a new image and they say it's theirs. You didn't draw that. You just
do anything.
you
Yeah,
did
so
a Photoshop edit, is what you did.
yeah, and that's the funny thing behind it too is like you took hours of hard work and put it and you did it for like 2 seconds and you're gonna act like you're like the creator of this thing and it's just like no, not how that works. And I remember even I know this is still subtly kind of going on with even the writer's strike,
Hmm.
and how they're trying to like do that AI. I don't even remember what that movie is. They had AI script do, which is I didn't even watch it. I won't watch it. It's just such a stupid thing, but it's a scary thing though too because it just that is free labor.
Yep.
Because you don't have to pay a robot to do anything. So it's just like that takes away from the authenticity. In my opinion, I don't think it's going to work. You're getting rid of a little bit of the humane element to it
Yep.
as well. In my opinion, I don't think it ever really works or will work. I mean, maybe in the future, I don't know, but I just think it's stupid. Why?
I don't get it either. I mean, I've heard of it too. The AI tools for writing, right? It's like you put all this like, hey, I want to build a story about X, Y, Z, right? And I want these parameters. I want this done. Here's what I want for the plot. Here's what, and it builds it out for you, right? And
Yeah,
then by the time you're done with it, like, I've read this story before. Yeah, it just took it from somebody else's book.
yeah. That's all. I mean, because that's all it's programmed and capable of doing. It can't create anything new. It just takes a bunch of what it knows and throws it into a mixing pot and hopes for the best. Again, you're taking away from the authenticity, away from the creator itself. If it's a writer, if it's an artist, or whatever that is, it's just the humane element of it, the passion from it as well as it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't care about it. It's a weird. I don't know. Is it right to call it a fad? I guess it's a weird thing, weird fad going on right now. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we had the same issue, right, when digital art first came in, right? So everybody was like, "Oh, it's got to be paper or pencil. It's got to be, inked on paper, right? It's got to be colored on paper, right?" And
Yeah,
then we all realized, okay, not everybody has the same talents, right? As far
yeah,
as doing that. Like I've got a lot of friends who are drafters, right? They've been in computer aided web design. They do these things, right? They can draw really well on a computer, but they can't draw worth of nothing on a piece of paper, right?
yeah,
And so they learned that, hey, maybe I could learn how to draw in like CS6, right? Of Photoshop. I can start drawing through Recreate, those different, tools that they have. Or so there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do it.
hmm,
That's why I have a respect for both sides. And I've got friends who do both, right? They
yeah,
do both pencils and paper, but then they'll do digital too. Like there is some things it's just easier to do digitally than there is out there, But then like for watercolors, right? You get somebody who wants to watercolor a page, it's not going to look the same if you do it in digitally as you see it on a paper because the
yeah,
paper has a different texture, has a different look. It's going to have a different feel from it. So there is a trade off between both of them, right? But it also
right,
depends on what do you want? What kind of cover do you want? How do you want it? Is it just a glossy image? Then you can probably do that digitally, But if you're trying to get something that's going to be like watercolored beige painted, kind of color look, that's a even harder thing to do. I mean, Lucio Perillo is a good example, right? He paints everything, and it
yeah,
gets made into a Vampirella cover, right? And it's like, but you see it every month. He comes out with something like that. That's got to take a lot of time. So he's probably been doing this for years and years and years in advance, and so because it takes him so long to do that. So to me, it's like AI isn't going to do any of that. AI is just going to say, "Oh, I'm going to take this image, put this image and this image together. It's going to have six fingers here. It's going to have five." It's like it's not going to know what to do. And so I appreciate that you guys are, against AI. And,
yeah,
and ultimately, too, what I look for is it's not that it's just stealing from that. It's also stealing from the wallet, right, of a
yeah,
writer and artist because it's taking money away from them that they should have got, right? And
yeah,
that's why people, and that's why I always tell everybody, right? If you're an artist, you're a writer, make sure you have a copyright, right? Make sure you have an LLC if you're a business because that protects you,
Yeah.
right? You can't stop everybody from stealing from you, but if you watermark it, at least you're trying to stop it from happening.
Yeah, at least you're doing something, make at least making it a little bit harder and putting some avenues up so it's harder for them to kind of get away with that kind of thing. But yeah,
Definitely. All right, so we got 6 for 30 days. So everybody, I'm gonna put the link down below again.
awesome.
Make sure you guys go check it out and go back this book. We want to see this back by the end of the week. That's our goal.
Yes, that would be great. That would leave a lot of stress here for me. But yeah,
And Boji says, I'm not even good at drawing. I'm not either. I draw a great stick figure and I draw a great tree. And that's why I let artists do their thing. And I enjoy it through them because they can do it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it-
I'm not even gonna do
I don't either. I write. There's a reason why I write.
it. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit there and do all that stuff. I have a nice respect for people who do draw. They have really great talent and a lot of hard work and dedication goes into it. I'm not gonna. I'm dumb. I don't want to. I'm fine with doing what I do right now, writing and all the other stuff behind that. But yeah,
All right, Brent. Well, before we get off of here tonight, I kind of want to see where can people reach you at and get a hold of you, and also what's the plan for you guys for the next year or so.
yeah. So obviously the first and foremost, the Kickstarter that's up right now. Kind of go there. We have all of our social medias on there. If you want to make it a one-stop shop, right on the bottom of the page, there's ways of connecting with us, contacting us as well. On top of that, we have our own website, avaloncomic.com. We also have our social medias tagged on there as well: Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok as well. So you can find us kind of anywhere. Avalon Comic is basically the name you're looking for. And the next year, we're kind of planning. Obviously, this is we're kind of really going to grind this out, get this out there for people, so we can really kind of solidify this volume here for people to kind of get it all 1 through 6 first season. After this is kind of done and we kind of get this all in the hands of everybody, our next goal is to really make the trade paperback with the bonus material and the remake of issue 1. That's our next goal here within the next year as well. And we're going to have a blast doing that too, because I know Demetrius says himself, to kind of see the old stuff and kind of making it into the new style that he's kind of adapted to as well. So we're pretty excited with that.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here tonight. I appreciate you coming on, Brandon. I always enjoy having somebody new on,
Yeah.
but especially talking about zombies. Come on now.
Oh yeah, I
I'm a,
always zombies.
zombies are always fun. I always enjoy it. I think that's why Lori and I get along so well because we always talk
Yeah.
about zombies.
Yeah,
You know.
I always love zombies. Any talk, all the talk about zombies, the survival aspect of stuff, what you do, all that. I'm a big fan of the zombie stuff too. But yeah,
Cool. All right, guys. Y'all take it easy. Have a good weekend. This is Nate from my channel. And then, of course, we got Brandon over from Avalon Comics. And thank you guys so much. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you guys on the next one.
thank you.